So, currently there's a little debate over whether Siege should have a more complex ping system. You might not think it at first, but Siege and Apex Legends share something outside of them both being FPSs. They both have a ping system. In Siege, the ping system places an indicator on where your crosshairs currently are, and simply detail the distance between you and the ping. Very basic. In Apex Legends, however, the ping system is rather more complex, and has actually been a source of much of Apex's praise. How it works is that some pings, if placed on top of a ping-sensitive item such as ammo, a weapon, or an interactive object of some other kind, will result in a specific callout relating to the object pinged. So if you ping ammo, your character will yell something like ammo here. Same with everything else. But there's also a radial dial menu of other ping options, so when you hold the ping key down, you bring up a radial selection which includes pings such as enemy here, enemy was here, go here, stay away from here, and other similar useful pings. Now, does Siege want such a system? In my opinion, it wouldn't hurt to improve the current ping system to be closer to this Apex ping system in the ways that would work specifically for Siege. Clearly, a lot of the interactive pings that Apex has for ammo and weapons and other gear wouldn't be necessary for Siege, as Siege simply does not have loot or supplies in the way that Battle Royales do. The rest of the ping system, however, has potential in Siege, such as being able to say where an enemy is via a ping. In terms of how it could best be implemented, I currently have a bit of an idea in mind for that. My design would be similar to Apex Legends in that you could place a quick ping, as you do currently by simply tapping ping, or you can hold down the key to bring up a radial menu with more complex ping options. Now, this is a very basic illustration of what I have in mind, and it took about 5 minutes in Photoshop, so do forgive its rough edges, but it should serve as a bit of a visual illustration. So after you've held down the ping key and brought up this radial menu, you could have a selection of operator icons that would represent your team, and more specifically, their gadgets. Say your team has a thermite. If you, during a match, want your thermite to blow open a reinforced wall, you could quickly hold down the ping, bring up the radial menu, and then select thermite's operator icon from that menu. This would place a ping on the reinforced wall that would include some way thermite's icon within the ping, essentially telling your thermite what you have in mind for his gadget. Maybe the thermite turns up, attempts to breach the wall, but realizes that there are mute jammers blocking his charge from going off. He could then ping the wall with a Thatcher icon, assuming of course that your team has a Thatcher in this scenario, essentially telling your Thatcher that his EMPs are needed specifically for that location where the ping is, where Thatcher's gadget icon would then be represented there. In addition, for this design you could also develop it further by adding the ability maybe to flip the radial menu from your teammates' operator icons over to your opposition's operator icons that would become visible as you identify the other team. This would be useful for pinging the locations of, say, a mirror's mirror, as you could hold down the ping key, which would pull up the radial menu, select some other key to flip to the other team's icons, and then put a mirror-specific ping on where you see her mirror. So that's a possible implementation of a more complex ping system, but what are the arguments for and against adding it? Arguments against this addition include the argument that it would be a distraction in an otherwise fast-paced, super high lethality game. This is definitely a worry, as the last thing I want is to not be able to see my opponent or some crucial gadget in a fight because a ping is floating, obscuring my vision. However, I'm sure that this could be worked around through some clever design. Maybe you could implement a system where once a ping has been placed requesting one of your team to do a specific thing, that team member could acknowledge that ping, and that would essentially tick it off and cause it to disappear. Players also seem to be worried about whether this would detract from encouraging people to use verbal communication over mics. I both agree and disagree with this point, as whilst verbal communication can definitely be far more subtle and informative and just more developed than a ping could probably ever be, a lot of the time it really isn't. People can give inaccurate callouts, unhelpful comments, be toxic in the background as you're attempting to clutch around. and sometimes they just have a poor mic quality and a dodgy audio setup that makes listening to their callouts really quite painful. In addition, some people may have very good reason indeed for not wanting to use their mic at all. Some female players have expressed already how they would love to see a better ping system so that they wouldn't have to use their mic, and so wouldn't have to deal with the weirdos acting all weird about them simply being a girl. Overall, I feel like a more complex ping system would add far more than it would take away. And at the end of the day, a lot of the criticisms of the ping system, such as it being too distracting or getting in the way of a fight, could be fixed through the addition of cool design, such as mentioned, being able to acknowledge a ping and make it go away, or even simply through not using these more complex pings at all during a match to avoid the hassle. It would definitely be up to the player base whether or not they use such a more complex ping system, and an additional argument actually for this kind of system to be implemented would be that maybe it would make helping new players and giving new players better guidance during a match that much easier, as you could simply place a ping, giving them a better idea of how they should be using their gadget. Which is an interesting thought, and given how complicated Siege is as a game, I don't think that would be such a bad thing at all. Will such an improvement ever be added to Siege? Well, we've already had confirmation that Ubisoft are considering it as a future addition to Siege, but given how recently Apex Legends has released, and therefore how recently Ubisoft will have been inspired by their example, I can't imagine that it'll be added anytime soon. So what do you think? Would a more developed ping system be a good idea, and would you even use it? As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you want updates on each new video, do remember to hit that notification bell.